Good evening. I'm Kelly Wright. Thanks for joining me as we spend the next hour together. I do hope you're safe and well, taking care of yourself and your family because you matter. Coming up tonight, my interview with Tawana Gordon. She is a family member of Breonna Taylor's. Also tonight, for Motivational Monday, we're talking to Carol H. Williams, one of the leading African-American advertisers in the country. That's coming up a little later in the program. But first, some opening observations. This case with Breonna Taylor is not over, and the family is making that clear. Before the weekend, they publicly demanded that Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron turn over the transcripts to show the evidence that he presented to the grand jury because they questioned the findings of the grand jury. And tonight, we'll hear from Tawana Gordon, a family member who was still championing the cause of finding justice and peace for Breonna Taylor and her family. Certainly, in terms of what took place out of that grand jury, justice has been denied for the Taylor family. And those are my opening observations. So Tawana, first of all, thank you for coming on. And as I've stated before, this is a very difficult time for you and your family. And as it relates to your cousin, Breonna Taylor, I suppose the first question I wanted to ask you is, what would you like the world to know about your cousin, Breonna Taylor?
What we've always been pushing in the world for them to know is that how much she was a caring person. As it was exhibited in her being an EMT, working at two hospitals in the Louisville area. She cared about people and she liked to take care of people, make sure people were in good health. She was a light in our family. She was that glue. To be as young as she was a glue for us. She reminded us what was important about family and why even in discord, you should still love family. She just, as a little girl, she just seemed to be a caretaker. She wanted everybody to be happy all the time, and she wanted everyone to get along all the time. So while we're out here doing what we're doing is in response to her legacy, is to make sure that that's always done. We're fighting for justice for her particularly, and just for everyone else that's experiencing the same injustices.
So when we say her name, Breonna Taylor, there's a lot of impact with that from the family's perspective. From your perspective, it's saying, not just say her name, but know who you're talking about.
Exactly. That's why we're hitting the ground in different cities and protesting and making sure the world knows what we know about Breonna Taylor, not what some of the media has said that she is. So we just want to make sure that the people know truly who she is. So when you say her name, you know why you're saying her name, you know why and who it's for.
Yeah, and I like the way you've described her as being the light to your family, and yet this dark chapter has hit your family because of the tragic event that took place on March 13th, in which your family and people all over the world lost Breonna Taylor. And obviously your family is not satisfied, not happy with the Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron and the grand jury's findings. To
Not
that,
at all.
what do you do? What do you say?
To that, we're not, like I said, in multiple interviews, we're not surprised. America has constantly shown African Americans and brown-skinned individuals that we don't matter on the level that we should have the same kind of justice system. It wasn't a surprise. Unfortunately for us, is a fight that we have to keep fighting. We were hoping on the judicial level to get some justice, but since we're not going to get it at that local level, we're still awaiting the FBI investigation and see what their findings are going to be, because there still could be some charges on the federal level. So we still remain hopeful, but in the process, we're still fighting. We still want the world to never forget her name. So we're out here. We're still doing the same work that we were doing prior to the indictment decision.
We're coming back with much more after the break. Tawana, when families go through this, particularly in recent months, the George Floyd situation, Ahmaud Arbery, Rayshard Brooks, Daniel Prude, Jacob Blake, it just goes on and then Breonna Taylor, and it's like, where where do people of color find hope in the midst of these times that can cause great despair?
Our community, people that are rallying around us in the whole world. I mean, everyone knows that they're saying her name all over the United States. They are actually saying her name in other countries that are outside of us. I mean, that's how you keep that hope. That's how you make sure that you stay inspired and you stay in the fight in order to get the kind of justice that this country needs to stop the kind of racism and the antics that we are getting from our own government that is to suppressing the Black person. And so at the end of the day, we keep that by making sure that we are staying appreciative to those that are hitting the ground with us. And they don't all look like us. So
Right.
that's inspiring too, because they're from all nationalities, all color and background. And so that's how we keep our hope. But as a family, we believe in being more power in numbers. And so as long as we stay together and we don't let the media divide us, whether it's what they put out there as far as their opinion, we just made sure to agree that we would not allow what is out there to divide our family, and therefore not to divide our supporters.
There's been protests all over the world. Most of them have been peaceful. Yet in Louisville, we did see some violent unrest with two police officers being shot. Your family has always stressed to people, protest peacefully, honor Breonna Taylor by engaging in peaceful protests, and
And
that's
we
been
do that because she was peaceful. She
yes,
was a person that had a caring heart. It would be not of her if everyone got violent. That is not who she was. And we don't ever want people to think that that's what our family will condone, or even at the end of the day, let you personify her as someone of, vigilante justice, or that is something that is not peaceful.
your family when they spoke yesterday there in Louisville. Well, I'm sorry, on Friday when they spoke in Louisville, there was the message. I'm so sorry this has happened to you, Tamika, but we as your family will stand with you. Uh, with the family, all of you coming together at a time like this, there's strength not only in numbers, but there's also strength that, from what I can see, in your faith in God and in each other to pull through this. What
Yes.
can we learn from your family so that we can be galvanized to not only support your family, but to support other people of color who are engaged in this fight that we're having, uh, just to be recognized as being uh, citizens fully accepted in America?
What we want you to recognize from our family is how to stay united, how to stay in the media with some class and some dignity. I know that people hurt and sometimes they're not in control of their emotions. And there are times that we want to be that way, but we want to show the world that even in tragedy, even in pain, we can still show that strong, united front so that people can be inspired to fight for their equality, so they can be inspired to fight for their neighbors and equality. We don't want people to walk away and have seen our family and not felt like they could be inspired. I think that when this first came out nationally, we wanted to make sure that people understood that, yeah, we're hurting, but we're willing to fight not just for Breonna, but for Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd. So we have been incorporating them inclusive of our own protests that are Breonna Taylor say her name. We always incorporate some individual, another individual, and there's so many of them since she's done it. Like Ahmaud Arbery came out before she even became known nationally. And since then, like you said, it's just been one rolling after the next. And we want people to know from our family, what you should take from our family is that the fight must continue, that to stay strong. Don't let media attack your persons. We know who we are. So we're not going to feed that negative. We don't want you to feed it. And we definitely don't want you to become negative because of what people will say. We are always going to have naysayers in the world, no matter what we do. And we understand that. And we want the world to understand that that's what they'll have too. And it's to rise above it.
Yeah, I have to be very honest with you. In my household, I have a daughter, I have granddaughters, I have a wife. There have been tears shed in this household for Brianna and George and Ahmad and
Right.
Rayshard, and and there are. It's very tough for all of us who care about life,
Right.
particularly when you see a young woman, 26 years old, the life of her family, and she's left there in a tragic set of consequences. And what would be your message to Louisville police and to the mayor of Louisville and to the citizens of Louisville?
To the mayor, he needs to step up and do the right thing. That's my message to Mayor Fisher, is that he needs to step up and be the right kind of person, a man of integrity and transparency, and give not just our family, but the entire city of Louisville the peace that they need to be able, the things that they need to put that city back together. Um, I don't think that it's going to be an easy or short obstacle to achieve because of the fact that he's not willing to do that. But I think that once he understands why he should do that and what how important it would be for the citizens in our family to see him be that kind of man, it will bring some of that peace back to Louisville and to our family. And then to the police officers, my thing is we just all we want is that there's a record of their disciplinary actions within their departments, because anytime a police officer can be terminated or let go from a different department and immediately jump on into another department having the kind of history that Officer Hankerson had, that should never be allowed. That, I mean, no person, no regular person with that kind of record would even be allowed to even get certain jobs in this country. Yet police officers are jumping departments to departments, just getting away with the behaviors that are creating the issue that we're having in this country. And so to those officers, they need to hold those other officers that are not upholding the oath that they sworn themselves into, and hold them accountable. I mean, I understand that in any organization, it's hard to be the sore thumb or the one that stands out of the bunch. But I think it's time for them to be able to say that I'm willing to lose something to restore the country's faith in our justice system. And they need to do that. And then to the citizens of Louisville, keep fighting, because the only way they're going to hear us, the only way we're going to get any kind of change, even if it's a minuscule change, we're going to have to keep fighting, because they don't hear us when we're quiet. They expect us to retreat to our respective corners and just be invisible. They want that, and we're not willing to give them that. So keep fighting and don't give them what they want.
Your cousin Brianna Taylor served as an EMT. In my mind, she is a first responder, which
Yeah,
means she is a colleague to police officers.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
explain that to me, why police in this situation could not have been more sensitive to the fact that one of their own, the way I see it, was taken out in such a manner, with the no knock, the entering in. Her boyfriend fires a shot in order to be defending Brianna and his home. I mean, to me, that is a fact that should be brought out. The fact that she was a first responder, and just like police officers, she runs into a situation to help people.
Well, the only answer to that is that they didn't adequately do any kind of surveillance that was up to date. And if you had done that, you had already checked who she was, what her occupation was, what she done. It didn't come out until they unfortunately killed her that night because media found it. I don't believe that they even knew that because I don't believe that that was their agenda. It wasn't to know what she did. It wasn't to know how she contributed to their city or their community. It was just strictly to take out a drug war that they thought she was involved in and which she actually had nothing to do with. So it really only has one answer, is not doing adequate police work, because you're obsessed to chase down a dealer that you've been having some issues getting for quite some time. And even that night, with him being already in custody for hours before you even executed her raid on her home, it just goes to show you that they, at that point in time, because they became desperate, not getting anything from the raids prior and having him in custody, not having anything, it was out of desperation. And those acts that night only happened to fail them because they were desperate, because they were trying to get him caught up. So we need to find what we're looking for. I didn't find it before. So at the end of the day, not doing your job. Then not only that, failing to adhere to all policy in the department is why you didn't know who she was, which is why you didn't know Kenneth Walker was in that home, because everyone knows even department protocol requires up to 48 hours before execution of a raid. You need to have had some surveillance done so that you know what you're going into. That wasn't even done.
And based on that, Breonna Taylor should still be with us,
Exactly.
serving her community and helping people with COVID-19 and other cases that would come up in emergency medical situations.
Exactly. She would still be here had they done everything they were supposed to do.
Tawana, I want to thank you for joining us today. I know that you work with the youth there in Grand Rapids, Michigan. You help them. What would be your message to young Americans, black, white, brown, yellow, red? What can our future generation learn from looking at this moment now?
Don't take advantage of your civil liberties. Don't take advantage of your civil rights. Fight for them. Stand up for yourselves. Don't let people treat you any way they want to treat you. When we do that, we allow them to do whatever they want to do to us and get away with it. Keep fighting, stay strong, and be persistent. I think that those are the key things that young people need to know. Stay in the fight. It's not over. I think a lot of us did get a little discouraged with that indictment decision, but it's not something I believe, to get discouraged about. It's something that should fuel the fire to make you fight, to make sure that you're equal, to make sure that you're safe in your homes, to make sure that you can sleep and get up and go back to work in the morning and fight the world, and and respect yourselves. I think that that's where our young people need are faltering, is that they haven't understood how to completely respect themselves and how to handle discord without allowing the emotions to lead it. So that would be my message to young people in this time.
I want to thank you, Tawana. And as we close, I'd like you to remind people again of the young person who uh, was such a light in your life and in the life of your family. Young 26-year-old Breonna Taylor, who was on her way to doing some great things. Remind us again who she is as we thank you once again for being on the program.
Brianna was a light to our family. She was a light to this world. They snuffed from us a queen in this world, and she would have wanted everyone. If the how we're fighting is what she would be doing if she still were alive. If Ahmaud Arbery happened and she had not, she would be out here fighting for him and every other individual prior and afterwards. She was something to aspire to be. And I want everyone to remind themselves that she was 26. She was a beautiful soul. She wanted everyone to be united, and she loved caring for people. And you guys should be caring for each other.
Tawana, thank you. I care
You're
for you
welcome.
and your family, praying for you throughout this ordeal.
Thank you.
Anytime you need me, don't hesitate. I'll be there. I'm here.
Sure will.
God bless you and
Thank
your
you.
family.
God bless you too.
Well, it always gives me a delight and a pleasure to introduce to you people who are leading the way and paving the way for all of us to look towards for inspiration and aspirational dreams that we may have. One is Carol H. Williams, advertising executive, multicultural audience. She's built a diverse landscape. She is the longest running independent multicultural marketing shop in the country, and she provides her clients with an array of services to create a 360-degree surround sound marketing program. If you want digital, social, PR, event planning, and film, you got to go to Carol. Carol, thanks for being on the program.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. You've done so much in your storied career. How did it all begin for you?
Well, it actually began in Chicago. I was at Northwestern making my way through that environment, trying, and got an opportunity through the American Association of Advertising Agencies to actually intern or begin my career at Leo Burnett Advertising in Chicago. It was absolutely amazing. And they had at that time a nice internship diverse program called Black Advertising Involvement. And I got involved.
And by getting involved, did you get bit by the bug for advertising, and you realized that you could do more and be more by helping people of color achieve the greatness they deserve with advertising, solid brands of the great things that our community does?
Isn't that a wonder? That's a fabulous statement. And I ultimately believe that's why I stayed. But actually, when I began, I was this lower income Black kid off the south side of Chicago. And I interviewed at Burnett, and they offered me a check. And being that I was on this little scholarship and what have you, and needed a couple of dollars, I decided that I would take that internship and make a little dollars. But once I got into the environment, which was totally white and totally male, I realized that how badly my voice was needed, or a voice like mine was needed, to really have communication and narratives about our African Americans and our buying power and the impact that we had on the economy and on what was going on in the United States of America, inside corporate America.
Absolutely. And that was not an easily won battle, because even though we could present them with the facts about the buying power that we have as African Americans and the money that flows through our communities, it was still a very hard sell with your white counterparts, who were predominantly male, as you stated, and to some degree really didn't get it. How did you get them to get it?
Well, I have a million funny stories that can be told, but you know, it begins with whether you're inside or outside. Oftentimes, it really doesn't matter what you say. The only thing that really matters is what they understand. And so communicating in such a way where you're in this environment, you're competing for the attention in a world of ever expanding choice and distractions. You have to win. You have to win with empathy. I believe. So you really have to try to seek out and work with people that you can communicate with, you can talk with. Yeah, and you really can in those environments oftentimes taking things personal, because then you get distracted in fighting the wrong battles. And that's often the emotional things, because you will see all kinds of issues inside that environments. And oftentimes it's like when I first started, I love one story I always tell about having worked, you know, on New Freedom, which actually was, you know, a pad. And all the guys, everybody wanted to run. And we also had United Airlines that would fly the Philly skies of United. It was really big at that time. And, you know, all the guys wanted to all work on that account, fly to Hawaii and eat pineapple. And so they offered me an opportunity to work on a sanitary pad. And, you know, inside I was, as a woman and as a Black female, you know, there were parts of me that was, you know, was offended. I was like, but, you know, inside my environment, home, it's about taking those obstacles and turning it into something that will work for you. And so I got an opportunity to work on a pad that had never been introduced to the market. And guess what? I laid the platform, the strategic platform, and introduced New Freedom Pad. It didn't exist. And now when you go in the store, there, every shelf is filled with it, you know, and you get an opportunity. And so all of a sudden, you know, you begin known as she can convert, she can be a winner, because that campaign I created for that pad went on the air and successfully launched that brand. So what I saw as a real negative initially turned out to open a big door.
That's fantastic. I'm talking to Carol H. Williams, owner of the Carol H. Williams Ad Agency. We're going to take a slight break. When we come back from the break, we'll talk more about this trailblazer, I'd like to call her, a trailblazer, a forerunner for so many African Americans who are now getting into the ad agency because of the likes of Carol H. Williams. We'll be back with more right after this. Welcome back to the program. So I'm having a delightful conversation with Carol H. Williams, the owner of the Carol H. Williams Agency. And by the way, I want to add a congratulations to you before we go forward in this conversation. You recently won the Ad Age Vanguard Award on September 15th. And I understand you're getting another award on October 12th, the New York Women in Communications 2020 Matrix Awards. You got to feel good about getting your flowers and getting your accolades and awards from people in the industry.
It's incredible. What a wonderful feeling. You know, I don't know, it says lots of things to you. It's been a long, hard, tough battle and journey. And when you get to a point where all of a sudden the industry in itself stands up and said, okay, you made it to the end zone. You fought a good battle. You know, you throw down to do your dance, make your dunk, make your slam. That's the feeling that the industry recognizes, that you got it done. And that's an incredible honor and feeling when your peers recognize your body of work and say, you did well.
And Carol, I applaud you and salute you for that. You have an indomitable spirit that has carried you from the inner city of Chicago to the tops and the higher echelons of being an ad exec and owning your own agency. But I keep hearing in your spirit, but wait, there's more. I'm not done yet. So tell me
No,
about what's next.
I'm going to tell everybody all the things that they did to me while I was in that business. It's time for me to really share. There are a lot of things that I want to share. First of all of us have a great deal of creativity, and it's really about recognizing what your creativity is and how to express it. A lot of young kids always come to me and say, how did you come up with that? How did you come up with secret antiperspirant strong enough for a man but made for a woman? How did you come up with say hello to Papa Fresh Dough? How did you come up with this stuff when you're hot on funny face? So really, really putting down, reducing to a way that I can share with our young people, how do you come up with an idea? And how do you follow that path to transition that idea, that narrative, that into this reality? Because culture and ethnicity is absolutely a shaping force in our life. It is a powerful motivator in what I see it on an everyday basis. So learning how to capture that and really moving it into a plane where you can make it real, that you can see something that you gave birth to exist, people indulge, it teaches them, and it puts joy into their family, and it makes them more productive and successful human beings. It's just fabulous. What can I tell you?
It is
I
fabulous.
It is fabulous. I never forget putting strong enough for a man, but made for a woman on the
Yeah.
air. And nobody was buying that antiperspirant. I mean, that antiperspirant was #9 in the market. And then one day I was in one of those drugstores and something, and I was picking up something, they don't know who I am. And, on a personal basis, I didn't know them. But every single woman that came in that store picked up a bottle of secret antiperspirant.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend looked over me and said, you did that. What can I tell you?
Not only did you do it, you created a culture of identity for a lot of women. Because I remember trying to use secret that my wife was using. She said, no, 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 that's not for you. That's for me.
I gave the women the ability to say, no, get your hands off my stuff.
I'm here to testify you got that right.
That's right. Instead of this little, kind of fragile little creature, we put some strength in that woman's step. That was
We
just
did.
fabulous. We did it. Yeah, that was fun. I remember when one of the guys I work with said, women, that's not about strength. And I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. And it's those kind of insight, that kind of recognition, those kind of narratives that we possess, we know exist because we live them. They're real to us. They're not just something you pull out of a research, some data or statistics, and being able to really bring that to life and represent what our culture is all about is great.
Well, Carol, I got to ask you, as a successful Black woman who's risen to the top of your profession, what's your message not only to Black women, but to Black men about where we are today? I know you talk to young people, but all of us, what we're going through right now in this racially charged and tinged and political environment that's caused so much heartbreak. Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, Ray Sharp Brooks, and sadly the list goes on. From your perspective, how do you see your industry helping us move forward?
Well, I think what's really critical in our is that the narratives that we look at, the role that narratives play makes a great difference. Narratives provide stability and continuity on the lives. Narratives help to orient us. When we confronted with a growing barrage of demands on our attention, narratives help us to filter, select, and prioritize what we should receive and where our attention is. We really deep inside cannot get hung up in the nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
You have a spirit that you can recognize truth, not play games.
Yeah.
You got to know who you are.
Yeah.
Narratives can motivate action by helping us make sense of the worlds around us. So you got to receive the information, compare it, and then use your own intellect.
Yeah.
You know, they can also diminish our perception of risk, while at the same time increasing our perception of rewards. We have to realize that this, is all new, but then it's nothing new. We've seen this game a million times. They thought I was kidding when they came and said, "Oh my God, with COVID, Carol, what are you going to do?" I said, "Well, there's a passage in the Bible about when the pestilence came and God told us to go inside, close the door, and put the lamb's blood on. I'm going to buy me some lamb's blood."
Yeah.
Metaphorically, okay, we've seen these things, we've read about these things before. We really do know what to do. This is a very critical time for us because with every situation, there is an opportunity. And it's a huge opportunity for us to step up, to participate, to construct meaning, purpose, and identities for ourselves, to step out strong. You got a platform now to step up. I recommend that we do it. It takes courage. It's a bold move, but we can get it done.
Carol, that's wonderful, especially when you break it down like that and bring in the factor of faith, because without faith, we can't make that vision plain. We can't write it and we can't go out and do it. So I know that my time's running short with you, but when you look back on that little girl named Carol H. Williams in Chicago.
Carol Henney.
When you look back on her, and what would you tell her today in response to what you've accomplished today?
I am really thoroughly pleased with, despite the pains and the heartaches that I have gone through, to recognize, to tell that little girl that all of it is real and you can't really make it to where you want to go without some suffering. That's the symbol. That's the cross. Can't get there. So all the time you spent crying, moaning and groaning was a waste of time. You accept what obstacles are in front of you and barriers, and you figure out how to get around it, how to get under it, how to get over it, or as my father used to say, get through it.
Get through it.
You might get hurt going through it, but get through it. And so you always have to just keep one foot moving in front of the other and look at the situation that you're in and keep moving forward. He used to say to me all the time, very quickly, you can't make the shot unless you take the basket. In my stupidity for a long time, I thought he was talking about basketball. He was talking about life. No matter how much you fear, how much pain it has you, you cannot make a shot unless, you cannot make a basket unless you take the shot.
Carol, I
Take
so
the shot.
appreciate you. I love and admire you, and I'm encouraged by what you had to say. Thank you for being on this program. And do me a favor, don't be a stranger. Come back anytime and drop some insight on us and some wisdom. And you can't go wrong talking about faith, hope, and love, because the greatest of these, of course, is love. You love what you do.
Absolutely.
You love who you've become. You love that little girl in Chicago. And I love who I'm talking to right now. I appreciate you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Love you.
Won't keep it
Thank
on.
you. All righty.
All right. Carol Williams, congratulations to you. God bless you. Welcome back. I want to thank Tawana Gordon for coming on the program tonight and sharing her story about Breonna Taylor. I also want to thank Carol H. Williams for giving us some motivation for this Monday. And to each and every one of you, my final word is this. Hopefully, we've been righted and ignited and united to keep spreading knowledge, keep demanding justice, and keep spreading love, freedom, and peace. Good night.
All aboard. The love train, the love train, the love train. If you don't feel the groove inside, give a little
Come on, come on, all aboard.
Let me break it down for you like this.
The rhythm of love is easy to find if you're listening. The color of light isn't red, black, or white, but it's crimson. We all bleed the same.
If you don't feel the groove inside,
If you don't feel the groove, it's alright. Just give it time, give it time. Come on, y'all. Get on board. Mankind won't survive if our hearts beat inside a hateful rhythm. You see, love isn't bought, but comes with a price of forgiveness, and we all bleed the same. Yeah. If you don't feel it now, just wait. It's coming on, the love train. Just give it time, give it time. Get on board.
Everyone's invited.
That means you
We're all united
and you and you.
on the love train.
Get on board.
All creeds and colors,
Brothers
all sisters and
and
brothers
sisters,
on the love train.
get on board the love train. Everyone's invited.